legislature, they just basically backed up, moved the goalposts, put up new draconian demands. And as I said, don't take my word for it, take the control board's word. Control board, including Brian Lipke, probably the most conservative Republican member of the control board, is the one who's out there saying there are big holes in this budget that need to be fixed. So you don't have to take my word for it, just look at the independent control board. The problem is some of the legislators just don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe reality. That's exactly what caused the red green fiscal crisis, and I'm going to call people out continually if that's how they're going to act.
But obviously, if you're going to have these budget problems, you got to cut somewhere, and you're starting to get into the heart of the fiscal year.
Well, the issue is, and I said this last year, if you're going to cut, you got to cut real services. You just can't make phony cuts that don't have an impact on the budget other than, in the long run, spending down our fund balance. That's what happened in red green. None of the legislators, for that matter, the county executives at the time, wanted to really cut services. They just cut the fund balance to zero. They cut the tobacco settlement proceeds to zero. You cannot sit there and have responsible government by sticking your head in the sand. And that's exactly what some of the legislators have done. I've offered a number of alternatives, of which, as we said, I've been told they're threats. They're not threats, it's just reality. If you're going to go out there and say, we can provide all the services you want, but we don't, and not going to bring in additional revenue to pay for them, it's just not real, it's not fiscally realistic. And I'm not afraid to call people out. I was elected to do that as comptroller, and I believe I was elected to do that as county executive as well.
It sounds like you're getting into a headlong fight with the IDAs.
I think I've already been in a headlong fight with the IDAs. Once again, I'm not going to apologize for asking an applicant for tax benefits to provide us the proof that, number one, they need it, and number two, that it benefits the greater community, just not a couple developers. I have to admit, there are some who told me and publicly gone out and saying, we're entitled to those tax benefits. I said, no, you're not. No one's entitled to tax benefits, and you've got to show the greater benefit for the community, not just that it's going to give you a greater rate of return and then help your bottom line. The problem is too many people are shocked that I'm actually saying that. They're like, wait a minute, that's not how it works around here, Mark. Well, I'm going to continue to do that because it's good for the community in the long run to be asking these questions and demanding tough answers. And I think a few people in the development community especially are just surprised that someone's even asking those questions. Because in the past, the IDAs were nothing more than rubber stamps. An application would come in, they'd approve it. Now they're being asked to show that there's a benefit for the greater community, not just a benefit for their own bank account.
What are you looking for benefit for the greater community?
Jobs. Real economic growth going around.
If somebody jobs or any jobs?
Real jobs, real living wage paying jobs, not minimum wage jobs at 20 hours a week. And that's unfortunately what some of the projects that are going forth are saying, we're creating hundreds of jobs. Well, how many real jobs, full-time equivalent jobs are you creating, and what is the pay per hour? And then they come back and they say, well, we're creating a number of jobs that are going to pay minimum wage at 20 hours a week. That isn't a real job that's going to help our economy. That's something that ensures that they can avoid healthcare costs and they can basically milk the system as much as they can for a tax benefit by saying they're creating real jobs. We're going to be asking these hard questions going forward. One of the things we didn't talk about with regards to my initiatives for a smart economy is how we're going to retool the ECIDA to be working and doing the right things going forward, including getting involved in more than just tax incentives, but getting it back into offering investments and loans for businesses, as well as making well, not the same stuff that was killed by the last administration. They got out of actually investing in equity investments and doing other things that they're not doing now, which is actually working on international trade issues.
$4 million payday from Civic.
But unfortunately, the prior county executive stopped that. We're getting back into that. If it was up to, if we continued down that path, we'd never have paydays like that again, John. We're getting back into that. We're going to focus on international trade and economic development, like the ECIDA is not doing now. The ECIDA does nothing to bring in business from outside of this area from Canada. They don't, and they admit it. Well, it's time that they start doing it.
Does that mean that you want a voice in who replaces Al Cullivan?
Well, I'm going to have a voice in who replaces Al Cullivan, just like any other individual on the board.
It's kind of a first step in kind of consolidating ideas.
Well, consolidation, I think everyone would agree, would probably be the smartest thing in the long run, but it's almost impossible to happen politically, so I'm going to work on the Erie County Industrial Development Agency where we can make substantive changes.
They've given, Albany said yesterday, the ECIDA in the last 5 years, they've given out $123 million in tax breaks. Mm-hmm. Is that justified by the jobs you got out of it?
Some of the projects were, others were not. And that's what I'm saying is I cannot talk about everything that happened in the past, especially before I became a board member last year. But going forward, we're going to hold applicants more accountable to prove the actual economic benefit to the greater community. I don't want someone to come in and say, hey, give me a tax break because it makes this thing cheaper for me to do so I can get a greater rate of return, which is truthfully what had happened in the past year. As a number of applicants came in and said, well, I'll probably do this deal anyway, but I want to get the best rate of return from my own wallet. That's not why we offer tax breaks. We offer tax breaks, first of all, to see if it's based on and can be provided under the policies of the IDA. And then secondly, does it really benefit the true community? And that's what I think the Authority's Budget Office was talking about in some of the critiques of the report that was issued yesterday is taxes are going out the door to these projects, but the rate of return is not coming back to the greater community. I want to see the greater community get the rate of return as well.
Is that why you voted against animal health and you raised questions about the Conventus?
Yes. Conventus is still, Seminole Development is still not provided to us a single ounce of financial data to show the need for the project. We've asked for it repeatedly, but they refuse to provide it. They are getting historic tax credit remediation benefits. How much? I don't know. They can qualify for up to $22 million of remediation benefits up for historic tax credits. We've asked them. They won't tell us. If they went to a bank and said, we want a loan, but we don't want to give you our financial data, what would the bank do? They'd say, see you later. Well, the ECIDA in some ways is the bank of the people. And if people want to withdraw from the bank of the people, well, then they need to provide the financial data to back it up to show that it's appropriate.
One or two more, guys?
You suggested.
So the specifics for ECIDA reform.
Will be coming out more as part of the initiatives for the smart economy, which will be announced in the next month or so.
Okay, but you've mentioned getting back into the loan and investment.
Well, we do loans, but more of the investment equity portion, yes.
And reforming and asking for more data and some of these questions that you've been asking.
For a while now. Now, the initiatives for a smart economy agenda is going to go through many different things. A lot of stuff we didn't talk about today. Some of it I highlighted, like infrastructure improvements, the blue economy, working on our natural water-based resources. We announced last week the Farmland Protection Plan. We're going to start implementing that as part of our smart growth and our thoughtful land use plans. Those are a number of things we're going to be talking about as part of that initiatives going forward. Things which county government did not play a role in the last administration, but has played a role in the past when the Department of Environment and Planning was actually a much more active entity in the economic development efforts of our greater community.
You suggested that maybe the education system in the county isn't producing the people you need for these jobs?
Well, we know there's a significant problem with workforce development training. That is different from, it's a very complex issue. What's happening, especially in areas of the old blue collar, is that individuals are not being trained to be welders, but they're not also being trained to be mechanics on highly complex things, not just automobiles. And so as people are retiring from jobs that they've had for 30, 40 years, the community's finding we don't have people who can walk in and assume those jobs. It's not just in the blue collar areas, it's in other areas as well. What we need to do is work together, not just the county, but Erie Community College and other partners, including the job trainers that exist out there, to ensure that we're training individuals for the jobs that actually do exist. Because there are plenty of jobs you can get in the community today. But many of them are going unfulfilled just because people don't have the right training requisites. So that's what we're going to be talking about. It's not so much education from a grade 1 to high school, though some of it could be high school oriented. It's more of what happens when somebody gets out of school. Are they going to a college and getting the right training for jobs that exist in our community today? And often the answer has been no.
Do you have
Shouldn't it be not only at the college level, but take it down a level to
Everyone.
the high school level?
Yes, we've talked with educators, but listen, I can't change things that happen in the Buffalo Public Schools. I can't change things that happen in other schools, but we can talk about it and put pressure on them to do so.
Mr. Poloncarz, just one. You had made the comment that policies from Canada made it feel like we're 9,000 miles away. What strikes you specifically as being responsible for that, and what do you think specifically is going to open up that?
Well, first off, we've done, I think, more in the last year than had been done by government officials in Erie County in the last 20 years to go after proactively businesses in southern Ontario, because nobody was doing it. there was this assumption, well, the Canadians know we're here, they come to our football games, our Sabres games, they go to the malls, but they weren't investing in our economy. They were not investing in our community. And so you've got to go sell yourself, and that's what we've done. I've gone and made presentations before business groups in Southern Ontario and Toronto and Niagara Falls. We've talked to leaders of business groups in Southern Ontario saying, what is it that your folks are looking for? Now, the problem is there's really no one up there selling our region on behalf of us. No one. For a while, New York State employed somebody, but that person was laid off. The BNE has now brought this individual back for a consulting amount for a period of time. You cannot have no one or just one person advocating on behalf of a total region when there are many, many, many others doing the same thing up there. You cannot assume that just because we're friends and have to share this border that they're going to want to come and do business here. We've got to actively sell ourselves, and that's what we've done. And we've had some success. I'm taking a lead role in it. I am going to take a lead role.
Any other,
yes, there'll be other plans we'll announce in the future, especially as part of the initiatives for a smart economy. I think we got to do a live thing right now. Thanks everyone.